I'm Regis. I'm going to be giving today's presentation on making molding with molding planes. I'm not really advocating this as a substitute for your router, although I find it a lot more flexible because you can kind of do whatever you want.
I can't see it,
for the most part. As far as profiles, you don't have to go searching for anything specific, and we'll get to that. I thought I'd start with just an introduction to some of the tools I have on the bench here, since not everybody might be familiar with those. Quick show of hands, is anybody using hand planes in any kind of way in their shop? Okay, a few people. Anybody using hand planes that aren't bench planes? Like, okay, a couple. That's good. So pretty much what we have here is most of the things that are not bench planes. And they fall into kind of two categories. We have some that are called molding planes and some that are called joinery planes. And the joinery planes do kind of like joinery operations. Like, for instance, this fenced rabbit plane right here. This, it creates rabbits across the grain and with the grain. Has a set of guides to limit your depth and your width. This one has a skewed iron, which helps you cut across the grain a little nicer. And when you're going against the grain, inevitably you probably will, you get a little cleaner cut with the skewed iron. These come in wood and metal. You can find them new and used. This one is from Lee Valley, one of the Veritas planes. They make a lot of very nice joinery planes. So if you're in the market for new, they're probably your best place to look for a new joinery plane that isn't amazingly expensive. So a couple of the other ones we have here are the what's called the plow plane. This again comes in wood and metal. What its job is to create slots of various widths. So when you're creating panel doors or whatever, you would use this instead of your router or your data stack to create the grooves and panels. And such. This one here has 5 irons up to, I think, 3/8 of an inch. Currently I have an 1/8 inch one in the plane because I'll be using that one. And what you're going to see me do with this is use it as a quick way to make rabbits in things that are actually much larger than I'd want to make with this, because I can kind of create 2 grooves that intersect and take out a little piece, and that's a lot faster than plowing all that wood out with the rabbit plane.
Regis, the blade on that plane is sharpened on 3 sides then?
No, just on the tip.
So
just down on the tip there. So it just works with the grain.
Regis?
and the side walls just kind of take care of themselves?
Yeah, kind of.
Huh.
If you're being good, if you got the fence against the work, well, it will clean up.
Okay.
But only with the grain.
Yeah, you can use that plane across the grain, but it helps to score with a marking knife. This one does not have any scoring apparatus. This one here, if I move the
Alex,
stop up.
since we're in the round here, do you need him moved back a little bit for
No,
better
no,
shot?
just as long as he remembers that I'm over here.
Fine. You got the little scoring wheel right here, and you guys can see it right there, and that can be raised or lowered to score the cross grain and let that come out.
Regis, the planes using, are those Lee Valley or which?
Yeah, these are Lee Valley Veritas. The rest of them are various makers from the ages. Also in the kind of the joinery planes group, we have the unfenced rabbit planes, of which I have 2 here. This one here I made a while back, and I haven't been really happy with it, but it kind of works. But what's important for the work we're doing is you will see a lot of these with an iron that is skewed at an angle, usually with the forward point facing up towards the work side for the right-handed user to draw the plane in. One of the problems with that for the work we're going to be doing is we're going to be trying to freehand this plane on the work. So with the skewed iron kind of tends to work against you and kind of pull the plane off the track you want it to be on. Straight ones in used markets are kind of hard to find. If you find them at all, they usually look like a dog ate them. Because it's a workhorse kind of tool. You only have skewed ones. I see them back there. There's some straight ones? That's rare. But, yeah. But the straight ones are what you want. I made this one. It's okay. A really good value in a wooden straight rabbit plane without a fence is the ones from ECE. They're a German company. You can get them online a lot of places. They come in metric widths, but for this kind of game, you don't really care what width they actually are as long as they're around, an inch or so. You'll notice that one thing about it is that the rake of the iron is a lot lower. It's a 45-degree bed angle.
I'm sorry.
Regis,
before
hold
you get
still.
too far off, of those first two planes, what's a Philister plane?
A Philister plane is an old English word for pretty much a fenced rabbit plane.
Oh.
They come in two types. This would be called a moving Philister because I can change the width of the rabbit it makes. There are planes called standing Philisters. I've never really actually seen one in person.
It's because it has the knicker.
Oh, and it does have the knicker. Okay.
That's what makes it the Philister.
Yeah.
Well,
That
makes
too.
it a Philister.
Yeah, and then the standing Philister makes a certain width of a rabbit, but the fence isn't movable as well. But, so.
Is there any websites you recommend if somebody wants one of those? One of the EC planes? Or
One of the ECE planes? I bought this one off the gentleman on eBay that carries their full line. Adria Tools, that makes the saws, also carries the full line of ECE tools. Whether they still do, I don't know. Highland Woodworking carries them as well. Lee Valley carries two planes for them. There might be others, but they make bench planes, but all in the German European style. Pretty much what we're looking at here today is English American style planes. Something you can use in a pinch if you have one is a shoulder plane, which this is a large shoulder plane from Veritas again. But it can be kind of cumbersome because it's just plain heavy. You're going to be using it in ways that it's not really intended to be used. You're going to be working at an angle. You're going to be working, various ways where you have to support the weight of this. This weighs about probably 4 times more than that rabbit plane that I showed you earlier. But in a pinch, you can certainly use that. So that kind of covers the joinery planes that we'll be using. And then what we have is the molding planes, which is what we actually came here to talk about. So I'm going to start with the what's called a dedicated molding plane or a complex molding plane. And pretty much that molding plane is a molding plane that already has a full profile worked into the sole. So you're going to get, this is kind of like the 18,
You can't move it around.
I'm sorry. This is kind of like the, your old-fashioned version of a router bit. You're going to make this molding, and you're going to make it pretty quickly because you're just, working the sole. These come in a vast array of types, vast. And any profile that you want, you can probably find one that will make it. The one I'm holding here is called a side bead. So it makes like a little kind of rounded over with a groove. That's a pretty nice profile to use these planes for because it's kind of a pain in the butt to make that with a router, I find. And it's very easy to use one of these. So I got these in a couple of different sizes. This one here is a 3/8. So that means the distance between the fence and the cork is 3/8 of an inch.
The fence and the who?
The fence and the cork. That's what that little groove is called there. The little piece that makes the groove there.
Okay.
And then you'll notice that that point is made of a different piece of wood. I don't know if you can see that on the video.
Just wanted to point out that when Kelly Mayer was in here doing his table, he used a Clark & Williams 3/16 to get the
Fine little,
HD detail
yes.
on this project. We
Yeah.
all saw that too, same thing.
yeah. I did hear about that, even though I wasn't at his presentation. 3/8 is kind of a large size for furniture work. I'm going to pick one of these. I've got a couple of them.
By a couple, you mean 20?
So this one's a 5/8, and I'm going to pass it around and everybody can just take a look at it. I'll loosen the wedge on it, so if you want to take the bit out of it, whatever, feel free. I'll start it back here, and if you want to play around, there, I'll just start another one on the other side.
Regis, at some point, will you be talking about sharpening these?
Yes, yes. Sharpening plays a big role in how you work with them.
Or no?
So the ones that I'm passing around right now are English. They're probably about 9 years old. So, but you can see the different parts of them where you have the cork on the bottom is made of a piece of boxwood, which resists the wear of that sharp area. Because that would, if that was just the beech that the rest of the plane body is made out of, you would wear it off. So the boxwood really, really lasts. Then the rest of the plane body is made from beech. Then you have a couple of different, for a thing with only 3 parts, it's got a lot of names to define what those things are. On this side without the mouth is called the blind side when people talk about these. The side with the mouth is called the escapement. Then you have the shoulder. Not all planes have a shoulder. The wedge, which holds the bit in, the bit or the iron or whatever, which is shaped to the profile of the plane. And then the toe and the heel. These are easiest to use if you're right-handed. Of course, like everything else on Earth, if you're right-handed, you win.
Doesn't sound like you're right-handed.
I am right-handed. But I feel bad. My grandfather was left-handed. So, but in the used marketplace, I have never actually seen a left-handed plane of this type. Now, Clark & Williams, and which is now what's called Old Street Tool, and Matt Bickford, who is another plane maker that currently makes these style planes today, will make them for you in left-handed versions. For the same price as there's right-handed versions, which is not cheap. So, what we're going to do is I'll just make a quick 3/8 molding with this plane. But let me first talk about the device I have here, which is an extremely complex piece of equipment that is in general called a sticking board. Pretty much what I have is a fence that's screwed to a piece of wood and a stop at the end that's made out of a screw. You'll see people use these that have adjustable fences. This one is not adjustable unless I take the screws out. But pretty much this is what you need to make a molding easily on your bench. It's kind of hard to pinch it between the dogs, and unless you're working on a wide panel, that method certainly works. But for small pieces of molding, you definitely want to just throw something like this together. You want this to be as long as the molding you're going to make. And you want your molding to be as long as it takes to wrap around whatever you're going to go around as much as possible. Because due to the fact that we're not using CNC manufactured cutters, and when we get into using the planes where you can make any kind of profile, you're not as consistent as you think. So even though the molding looks good, it has certain inconsistencies, and when you miter, you want to miter in the same spot to get that wrap around. So we're going to make a side bead molding. I just have white pine here that I had in my shop. It's nothing special, but it is fairly clear and straight grained, which is nice for this kind of work. Knots and wild grain and stuff like that are not the friends of these things. And I hear Jerry laughing back there. So that's kind of what you want to do in your wood selection. I really like molding planes, especially for on cherry, walnut, oak to some extent. But on cherry and walnut, I think they really shine. Mahogany, I'm sure, but I've never owned any. One of the great things about cherry, working with cherry with these, is that there's no burning. You do the molding and you're done. Yay. So this is going to look a little different to you how I start this cut than what you would think of with a bench plane. With a bench plane, we generally start at the far end, work our way across the wood. What I'm going to do is start at the near end and take a little cut, and then kind of step back. And since that's because we have this little cork on here and its tendency to follow the grain in certain woods. So this plane you hold straight up like this. You put your hand on the back, you put your other hand near the toe to keep the fence engaged with the wood, and then you just, it would be good if I set the iron first before I did the job. Yeah, it cuts better when the iron's exposed. So, that's a little much.
And you just eyeball that depth.
Yeah, I just like to see like a little tiny piece of the little tiny piece of it kind of peeking out along the sole. Not very much. Yeah, one of the things about these planes that is subtle, and I may not have mentioned earlier, is that the plane irons are tapered from the bit to the end. That makes them thicker at the bit and thinner at the tail, or at the top here, and then you have the wedge. So when you adjust the iron a little bit, you have to adjust the wedge back in to hold it tight. The other thing that does is that, I don't know how many people have used wooden bench planes, but to loosen the irons on those, you smack them on the butt, and that loosens the iron. With these, you just tap the iron in further, and then it becomes loose because it's tapered. That's a little more subtle. You can see on some of the planes that I've been passing around that somebody liked the other method much better. And that's pretty common. It's not a huge source of damage. You can see I'm using a brass hammer with a wooden end. The brass does not mushroom the steel. The wooden end does not smash the wedge. So, if you're using your E-swing, you might want to reconsider. So, let's see here how that's. There we go. That's the sound of a cut. And I'm just going to work back. And you get fine shavings. So this is the first molding plane I ever used. This actual one right here. I bought it in a set of 3 with the other 2 I passed around. And I used this one to make some doors, some screen doors for my house. This molding is applied kind of around where the screens fit. And it, my house is really old. It's 1880s construction, so it kind of adds a look that I really like for the house. And then once the complex molder is done, it will just stop cutting.
How do you keep ensure that you're not rocking at all when you're doing? Is there a technique that you're using that we're
Yeah,
not
I guess
seeing?
it kind of is. It's kind of subtle. One, I'm kind of like pinching the plane kind of like this with that kind of hand on the crook of my hand, so it's kind of held that way on its own. Then I get the pressure against the fence in the back, and then I'm not really pushing with my arms. I'm moving my body, which is one of the key things of working with these kind of planes, is so you don't get tired, is that you're using your leg muscles, not your arm muscles, more or less. My arm doesn't really move. And then there's the molding cut. This one it's fair. I could have done a little better job keeping the iron in the corner, or the plane against the corner of the work. Sorry. I only got so much wood, so I'm going to cut off a section and pass it around to people. Keep in mind that's not my best work. Yeah, it's a demonstration of what we're trying to do. So that's the side bead plane. I'd say if you were going to do some cabinet work and were interested in using the side bead plane for like stuff like Kelly Mayer used it for, like skirts and other little things, that you would want to look at a quarter or less in size. Yeah, that's going to give you a very petite molding that's good in proportion with small furniture, which is what I'd say that most of us are making. I own these up to the 5/8, which partly because I bought them in a set and didn't know better, and I didn't know how big I should buy them or small, because these were the first ones I ever bought. But also, I tend to do a lot of moldings and stuff for my house, so that architectural size is bigger. So that pretty much covers the side bead plane, and pretty much any plane that you would use that is standing up like this. Now, the next type we have here is a more complex molder. This one creates an ogee profile. That's actually a pretty nice little, like I think 3/8 ogee. These planes are used when you hold them at an angle to the work. And that angle is referred to as spring. And the reason why they do that is to keep the mouth geometry nice, to keep the mouth tight and closed, so that when you're cutting it's not tearing. So if you had this profile on there square to the plane, the mouth would be really big up here at the top, but really small down in the corner. So it would have a tendency to tear on the top end of the work because of the levering action of the bit is not being supported by the plane body. This plane in particular is the oldest thing I own in life. And it could maybe have been manufactured as late as 1775.
As late as?
As late as 1775, yes. This is from an English maker called Maddox. His stuff's very common, so it's not an especially valuable plane. But it just shows to you that you can find good used planes of almost any age. They're very usable, very workable, highly refined pieces of equipment.
The original boxwood in it, you think?
This one does not contain any boxwood because it doesn't have any really sharp arises in the profile.
Okay.
So, but it is all the original beech, all the original parts. This guy apparently made a ton of planes because you can find them on eBay forever. But that being said, not all the ones you find used are good or usable.
Read this again. That boxwood is not the boxwood we know, is it? It's a different box, because that mapley boxwood, what do they call that?
Box elder.
Linden maple.
Box elder.
Box elder.
Box elder.
That's soft.
Pretty soft.
That I don't really know. I think that this wood comes from the small shrubs called a boxwood. You might have them in their yard. They smell terrible.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's where this wood comes from. But the general term, that was like the name that it became known as is boxing. You'll see a number of other woods used in that role. Lignum vitae is pretty common in older planes from certain areas. And I think Clark and Williams uses boxwood and persimmon. And Matt Bickford uses persimmon exclusively for his boxings. So, it just has to be hardware resistant wood. And it's also put in the sole at an angle so the grain kind of points down into the work. So you're wearing on that end grain, which is even harder. So these ones are a little bit more tricky to use, and I find myself having to practice a little bit each time I use them, just to get it right. I own, for standard furniture, I own 2 of these in 2 different sizes in Roman ogee, or not Roman ogee, like more of a Grecian ogee with like longer curves, more of elliptical curves to it. And then I own 2 that are a square ovalo, which is a curve with just a round over with a little arris on each side. So I own those in 2 different sizes because they're the ones I use the most. They're what I like.
So have you found any good sources in this region for the older molding planes, or just wherever?
I bought all of these online, and I've been extremely lucky. But I'm kind of picky about who I buy them from. I've got a couple of people that I buy them from. Some of them I've bought on eBay. I bought this one on eBay, and it was definitely a win. But you got to be careful. Ask for pictures, and we'll discuss what makes a good and bad molding plane when you're buying one used. New ones are never a problem, but can be cost prohibitive. So I think I got this one here set up. Make sure the wedge is tight, because that'll be a short trip. And then we're going to take that kind of same technique and it's, I don't know, can you see that little line on the toe there? That's scribed? That is the spring line. That is what you want to have be vertical when you're using this molding plane. All y'all can gather around and take a look at that little
Kind of 10-degree angle or something.
on the toe. That's your point. That's what makes this kind of tricky. So, I think ogees are especially tricky because you're starting off on that curve. So, I'm going to put it on there. I'm going to try to get it plumb. Kind of use my same grip as before. And then that can't be one thing with these is if you don't have them set right, sometimes they jam, and the different profiles can be kind of a pain that way.
Is it jamming because of too aggressive of a cut?
Yeah, I probably have the bit a little rank out of the mouth there.
Rank meaning too far out?
Meaning too far out, yeah.
There's a lot of syntax.
Yeah, a lot of jargon.
Yeah. A lot of those old Gaelic sign words.
Yeah. Just think if I were an IT guy, how much jargon I would use.
Yeah, right. So use more abbreviations.
Yeah, there's not a lot of like acronyms in this field.
Yeah, acronyms, that's right.
Like IT.
Exactly.
So
I'm
is
sure
there-
you're all dying to do this for yourself.
Is the idea that you put your head over the end of it and look down plumb on that scribe line?
That's kind of what I try to do to get it started.
I got a 2-pound mallet in the car.
Yeah.
That might be a little more than
I got an ace one. Make fun of that.
So if you do hand tool work, what's the electric cord for?
what
The
electrical?
electric cord on your bench.
That's not my bench. That's Bill's bench. I'm just borrowing it.
That's for the light, so you can see very, very well.
You don't use a candle?
Another steam power.
It's a steam power candle.
There we go.
A candle safe.
This one doesn't work well. Let's try this one out, since I'm not very far
Could it
along.
be because your wood is curved?
It could be. It could be because the wood I'm using is a little bowed or something like that too. Usually that's not a huge problem. Is it? It is concave that way, isn't it? Let's try a different corner.
Yeah, but things like that, can you use those on a curved edge, for instance, and if so, how much of a radius?
You can use these ones on a convex radius edge. You know, just like using any flat plane on a convex edge, you kind of have to work hard to keep the iron engaged. But I think you could go from anywhere from straight to, I don't know, a foot radius. You know, on that curve. Yeah, you're gonna need it to be really sharp when you start hitting the across the grain spaces of that.
That's a good noise.
That was me off. That's one of the things. Yeah, you just have to be careful with that verticality. And then, you know, you will, I don't know if I'll complete this molding, but pretty much you just work it the same way as we work the other one until it stops cutting, and then you'll have the full profile merge. These are really small profiles, so you can kind of work it that way. It's a little less than ideal because you're working one part of the iron a lot more than you're working another part of the iron. So the wear on it is a little uneven, but for a small profile it's not bad. For like a really big one of these, you might want to knock the corner off with your rabbit plane or something like that to give the bit a little more even wear. So that pretty much concludes the ready-made profiles. Anybody have any questions about those?
Yeah, on some of the ones, let's say with the greater curvature, you ever just use a flat plane to hog off some of the bulk first and then just use this to cut the profile?
Yes, that's what I was trying to kind of say, is that you can make some rabbits or other things that kind of fit in the profile that you're trying to do to get rid of that wood, and use a plane that is easy to sharpen, which is the other big piece, is that it's a lot easier to sharpen this than it is to sharpen, let's take a bit out of this one. Than it is to sharpen that little guy. Yeah, that's kind of a pain, you know. So if you can get rid of a good bit of the wood by yourself, you know, beforehand, that's nice.
How many times have you driven one of those into your hand when it got a little tight and you hit it too hard?
Never,
Never?
never so far.
Yeah. Like an accident waiting to happen.
Probably do that later.
Gee, thanks, Rob.
Debbie Downer.
Usually they don't come out all that easy or quickly. But one thing you have to do be aware of is they will fall straight through the mouth of the plane and be loosening. So right on the concrete floor is not fun.
So how do the metal planes like the 45, Stanley 45 and 55 that have multiple cutters and machines, how do those compare to a wooden molding plane?
They do a lot of the same things. I don't own a 45 or 55. Jerry does. I don't know if he's used it. But have you used it?
I've been mainly sharpening.
I know your pain. I know your pain. You spend a lot of time sharpening.
I bought a work sharp
Yeah.
wheel sharpener because it cuts down the flattening of the back.
Flattening in the back. Yeah.
Tremendously, but you raised a good point. I know you're not going to get into it today, but you could do a whole presentation on how to try to sharpen some of these profiles and all.
Yeah, it takes a little work. Clark & Williams actually has a really good video that's also available from Lee Nielsen on sharpening profiled irons of any type. And it's a really good video, even down to learning how to sharpen a cambered iron for a jack plane. it's a great video for that. I don't know if we have it in the library here, but it would be a good addition. They also offer a couple other videos on making these types of planes. And also,
It's wobbling, I just wanted to put a shim in there for you, go ahead.
all right, and on how to use these types of planes. Larry Williams of Clark and Williams does the plane making video. Don McConnell of Clark and Williams does the plane using videos. Basic molding plane techniques, I think, is one of them, and then advanced cornice molding is the other. And both of them are really good videos if you find you're interested in this once I'm done. Any other?
With the planes that have a spring line, would it be beneficial to add a fence to keep it vertical, or would that be more of a hindrance to cutting?
I think that there are some that have longer fences. These ones don't have a particularly long fence section here. You'll see ones called sash planes for the window making trade. They generally have a lot longer fence on them because people are just using them and they gotta be fast, so they're picking them up. Going. So that could be beneficial. You also want to keep in mind that whether that plane in particular is particularly valuable or not valuable or whatever before you screw some wood to the side of it.
Keep in mind also, if you did as he suggested, cut all your molding in one strip, the slight variance you have is not going to matter on your finished project.
Yeah.
Because it'll all be the same off angle, and it doesn't need to be perfectly 90 degrees.
Yeah, it's kind of a different way about thinking of woodwork. It's a little more
Sculptural.
sculptural. Yeah, that's a good word. Where you're making the molding and you don't care if it's 5/8 or 11/32 or whatever it is. You're making it to fit a style, and a space and a range, and a what's the word I'm looking for? Ratio of your piece, to make it all look good together and work together. And that's one thing that this kind of what can give you, especially with the hollow and round planes that we're going to look at next, is that you don't have to choose something from the Freud catalog that looks right. You can make what is right as much as possible. So let's talk a little bit about the hollow and round planes for a second. Here's a small selection of the set I own. They come in pairs. You'll see one is concave and one is convex. That's why they're called hollow and round. The ones I have are slightly skewed on the sole. So the bit sits a little off perpendicular to the side of the body. This is a cabinet maker's set, not a carpenter's set. A carpenter's set is generally straight and has a lower angle for working with. I bought this set off of a dealer online called oldtools.com. This is the only set they've ever had, and frankly, it was a very lucky purchase. It's a very nice set. This set is from King & Company of Hull, England, and they went out of business in 1895. So, whoever owned them before me did not use them very much. So, they range from the number 2, which is 2/16 radius. So you get a tiny little curve all the way up to the 18, which I think makes a radius of about 1.25 inches. You can measure that. Maybe it's 1.5 inches. They make this profile right here is 1/6 of a circle. So the width of the profile is actually the radius of the plane, by taking pi and making it equal 3. So,
Can I see that?
yeah, sure. We can actually pass some of these around. I'm not going to use the bigger ones.
I'm missing some. Why they come in pairs?
One's concave and one's convex. So you get the same size in both styles.
And Regis, your write-up indicated that they were called a half size or half set?
Half set.
What does that mean, please?
The set I have is called a half set. And what that is it's numbered planes 2 through 18 in in even numbered increments.
Oh.
Which means that it's 2/16, 4/16, 16, and 16. You can find every once in a while an odd numbered half set. People have them. And then you'll also find the full set, which a lot of cabinet makers from this period didn't know. A full set, even an odd, is a lot of planes. 1, 2, it's a lot of money at any time. And then it's also a lot of sharpening, and you're not really gaining a lot in those in-between spaces, really. You can kind of fudge it.
It's almost like you would only own it if you had to match something, I would guess.
Even then, you can
Yeah,
kind of,
yeah.
because part of why I own these is because I'm trying to match some things, in my work, and, with the house and whatever. And
So even in the 17th century, they were making tools looking for a market.
to some extent, and there's also traditions.
Sure.
So you'll find these hollowed around planes are very, very common in the used market. So what do you need to get started with a set of hollow around planes? You need one, probably around an 8 or a 10 for this size work that we're doing. The larger sizes tend to get up to like extremely large casework, like, I don't know, a high boy or something like that, or casework trims for houses. They do make bigger sizes than the 18, but the 18 is one of the common largest sizes.
We're not doing anything. Calm down, Regis. I've been
Just looking at it, it's kind of fun. You can buy these online from a variety of places. A website called Jim Bode Tools. I bought some tools from him, but not any planes actually. Has hollow round sets of various types available pretty much all the time. He's got a lot of tools. One of the things that you'll see in the parlance and that affects the price is that you can own full sets from one maker that's all from the same owner. And that's probably, if they're in good condition, going to cost you the most money. This set is all from one maker and all from one previous owner. The next thing you can get is you'll have them all from one maker, but it'll be assembled from some different owners. But the pairs match each other. They've always been together. Further down, you'll get what they start calling Harlequin sets, where they are sets of planes that they'll give you the full range of profiles, but they're different manufacturers, different owners, different histories. They're just all over the place, but it is a full set, that you can use, and that's plenty good to use. I'd probably own that set if I had to run a good deal on this set.
What is a good deal?
A good deal. For a Harlequin set, that's about $300. For a full set, a full half set like I have here, which is in very good condition, is, I think it was 12, and then 100. And then, if you want to buy new ones from Matt Bickford, it's probably more like $4,000, and then from Clark and Williams, it's probably, what are they, 9 now?
Pretty expensive.
Yeah.
But keep in mind, you can make your sets as you go along.
Yeah,
You can
another
find
thing-
a matching pair of hollow rounds that
Yeah.
have been together since birth.
Yeah, you can,
You'll be fine.
Matt Bickford, whose new book we have up here, that I'll talk about a little later, also offers his as a quarter set.
It'd be cheaper to hire you.
Maybe. Depends on how fast you want it done.
Or you can go take a class on how to learn how to make them.
Yeah. Which somebody
Make all-
here has taken that class.
Dave,
Oh, Dave DeYoung has taken that class. He had his planes here to show and tell a couple of years back.
Dave, are you, yeah, there's Dave back
Oh,
there.
is he back there? I didn't even see
Oh,
him.
no, I don't see them, I thought I saw them.
I didn't see him.
Everybody turned around, so I was not there.
They don't look like they'd be really difficult to make, but are they?
I think, I made this one, and I think the rabbit plane is actually a little harder to make than the one with the side escape in it, because you got more bed, and then the wood selection has to be better so the toe doesn't cast out of the plane and stuff like that. I found the hardest part to do for me was sinking the mortise, and you need a couple of specialized tools once you do. In the video, Larry Williams uses a gimlet and a bit brace to do the sinking. He does one down the bed and one down the front of the wedge space. I used a 8-meter hand drill, which worked pretty well. I think using a drill press is extremely difficult because you got to jig it, and then the little tiny bits you got to use for the smaller sizes tend to deflect all over the place.
Why couldn't you just do it, cut a groove in 2 boards at the same angle and glue them together, you'd have the hole.
End grain gluing?
Huh?
Gluing end grain?
No, the right and left half of that.
Oh, yeah, Krenov style that's pretty popular. There's people that make them that way. I was trying to, go old school.
The original.
Yeah, but getting the bed to be flat is the hardest part, I think, of the whole situation, and the part that is really key to keeping the bit from working its way out under the pressure of planing.
Did you purchase the bit?
Yeah, I purchased the bit from Lee Nielsen. They offer these. This one's was about I think it was $20 in an unhardened state. If you saw my previous presentation, you probably know how to harden the steel once you. This was a couple of years ago. Harden the steel and get it to hold an edge. But they come completely annealed, so you can file them and work them into shape. They make this kind with the center tang for your bit braid, or for your rabbit style planes, and a couple others. And they make.
Ron Hawk also makes.
Does he make these now?
Yep.
They also make them with the side tang. They're also a good use if you find a plain body with a wedge and it doesn't have a bit, which I think there are a couple back there that are missing the bit. You can buy the bit and file it and make it fit the profile.
Given the costs you cited in comparison to like an electric router and router bits, what prompted you, or what are the advantages of hand planes versus?
For me, I have a very small shop.
Okay.
So the ability to
This table
move
saw's bigger.
the tools across. I don't even have a table saw.
No, I'm saying this table saw's
That
bigger
table
than your
saw's
shop.
bigger than my shop. That one's big. The ability to move the tools over the work, as opposed to putting the work through the tools, was a real advantage for me. The other thing is doing some of the things I do, and I'll make a window sash for a friend every once in a while or whatever, and I can do whatever I want with just this set of tools. I can match those profiles. It's not fast, but it's effective. Do I want to make molding this way for an entire house? Hell no. No way. But in working on my house, I needed 6 feet.
And make the one missing piece.
Yeah, I can make that 6 feet of molding. If I got a door that's missing the molding around the panel.
Consider how much a router bit costs.
Yeah.
$20 to $50 a piece. Or you're wanting to make a door frame and buy that one special set of bits. And those 2 bits are going to cost you $50 to $100 just for that one profile.
Yeah, or specialized grinding from a manufacturer like where they go Art Crafted on that board. they probably.
Well, I think also here, this isn't about an economic justification.
Yeah.
This is all kinds of other justifications.
Yeah, there's a lot of other justifications in here, and,
Not waking up the baby.
not waking up the baby because my shop's in the basement. Again, you know, when I do this, I end up with this, not a bunch of dust everywhere. Yeah,
Have you
it's just,
started wrapping your sushi in that yet? Are you aware that some of the Japanese masters will take a long wide and allegedly wrap sushi or other things? It just as kind of a look what I did. So.
no, I haven't, I have to start saving it.
And starting the
Get rid of
sushi.
it.
You can take it down to Giant Eagle.
Channel love
They're gonna be
that.
like, what?
It's also good packing material.
Yeah.
I mean, I can ship hand planes around and packing that way.
Yeah, I think if you buy like little marking gauges from Hamilton, they come in chips sometimes. My panel gauge came that way, but,
Well, show us the half sets.
okay,
The pairs.
so, well, you wanna make a molding with those?
Sure.
Okay, let's do that, let's get rid of this. So, this takes a little more time to make a molding, and I forgot my circle templates, which
I have circle templates. You want them?
kind of a point of pain. Yeah, you got electrical templates?
Good lord.
Sure.
Have the books there.
Is that enough? That you should have every size you need.
Okay, yeah, I don't even need it.
Not too bad.
I'm sorry you're working.
You may.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. It's kind of neat.
Actually, one thing I could seem to borrow would be a drill driver. I need to move it like that. Did everybody get a good look at the planes?
I can't go back to Jenna. That oil guy shut it. Some the other day.
So,
Regis, do you mind if you send this around?
no, go right ahead.
Mind if I use it to build a door?
No, go right
If you
ahead.
want to do a few more like that, while you're here.
Good to feel the edge on it.
Oh, I got it.
Yeah.
It's in there.
No sanding involved.
It's probably on tight.
Aggressive. Am I screwing up a bit there?
No.
Or is that the way this thing works?
It's an impact driver. That's why you're hearing that noise.
You didn't get him a brace because that's all he knows.
He asked for a drill driver. I'm assuming that's what he meant.
Yes, this is exactly what I meant. I don't know if you can see Alex, but I'm going to set this fence up so that the wood is flush with the edge of my sticking board, because I'm going to use the fence plane a little bit, and that'll allow the fence to ride down over the sticking board in the front of the wheel. So, let's see, what kind of profile do we want to make? Let's make kind of like a Grecian ovalo.
You want to describe what that is?
A Grecian ovalo is a round over that's based on an elliptical profile. So it's steeper at the bottom and shallow, more gentle curve towards the top of the profile. So you can do that with just these kind of round planes by using a smaller one on the bottom of the molding, then using a wider one on the top of the molding, and then kind of like pairing them together. So we'll see if we can do this in public.
And you could also use all the same sets to have a point of inflection and curve or switch in the other direction.
There's a couple other planes we're going to talk about at the end that are almost specialized for doing those kind of things where you have the curve change drastically. So, interesting. So pretty much what I'm doing is I'm laying out the profile on the end of the thing. And this is going to be quick and dirty. So, and this is a convex profile, so I'm going to just kind of draw it in there. And we'll see how close I get to my drawing. Take a look at that little drawing on there. That's an inch across the top of the profile, or 3/4 across the top of the profile, and then 1/2 inch down, which will be a little quicker to make. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set my cutting gauge to the profile. To my mark. Knock it down. And scribe a line.
And that gives you a line so you don't tear out?
It gives you a line so you don't tear out, and a line to work to.
Right.
And the little shoulders on the profile, those will be cut with the same set of planes or something else? Or you know what, I'm getting ahead, I'm sorry.
We're going to start with a rabbit plane to cut the shoulders. So what we're going to do is cut 2 rabbits through these lines in the shell. Then we're going to use the rabbit plane to cut off the heiress of the thing. And I'll explain a little bit more about that when we get there.
Okay, sorry, I should have watched, shut up.
I'm only marking penciling a line so I can see because I'm getting older.
You can be sure that if they had .5mm mechanical pencils in the 17th century, they would have done exactly the same thing.
Sometimes they use coal
Sure.
or slit or whatever. So I've got that one across the top. Then I'm going to turn my wood around, do my one on the face. I'm not being amazingly picky about this.
You hold that up at reach so the camera can see it real good.
No, we're good.
You
We're
got
good.
it.
Yep.
So that's set like that. And I like these little marking gauges. I just got these from Dante's place. It's great for this because you don't have the big fence, which is really nice.
Who's is that?
This
Hamilton.
is a Hamilton.
Hamilton, Joe.
Hamilton marking gauge. Come in 2 sizes. They are super. Because you can also mark like up to 1/2 inch wood on the bench, which is nice.
Oh, because the fence doesn't go down very far, yeah.
Yeah,
Nice.
it is nice. Okay, so we're going to do these rabbits 2 different ways. The big one, I'm going to use the fenced rabbit plane, or the martyr, or as some people would call the moving Philister plane. A little shy of an 8. So I'm going to set the lid up there. And, in the interest of time, I'm not being amazingly picky. Just use my scribe line to set the lid.
We'll stop this 21st century tool from damaging those.
That would be fine. This is also a 21st century.
True. That one's not going to fall over. The driver will fall right over.
So this is already set to cut. I'm good at cutting myself on this particular plane because I like to put my fingers right where the mouth of the blade is when I hold the fence. And it's sharp. So, but I got it set for a pretty full cut in the interview so that we get on with our lives.
You need a little wax.
Yeah, I could probably use a bit. The baby's sick, so I didn't have a lot of time to prep.
You don't have a wax in there?
Actually, no, I don't. I keep it on my bench and I forgot to bring it.
He's just trying to have you avoid hitting that cast iron door stop.
Actually, the wax helps you go into it.
That's,
And you can
But
see it
you
stops
would make it
cutting,
there a lot faster.
stops cutting when the fence.
oh yeah, here, right there. There you go, yep, you bottomed out.
Yeah, there we are. All right, so there's our rabbit. Rabbit number 1. So that's the first part, and that gave a nice smooth base there. So this other one, we are going to.
Is that cut on the skew?
Yeah, this one does cut on the skew, which is fine because it's fenced and it keeps it from wandering. This one we're going to try the other method. In this book from Matt Bickford, he uses this plane exclusively. He never uses a fence plane. So he's pretty handy. And I tried this out myself the other day, so I got a fair idea that I can actually make this work. So this is going to ride a little bit in the gauge line.
Regis, what is riding in the gauge line? Is there a nib or something on it?
No, you're going to kind of ride in the corner and fence with your fingers to make
right.
this rabbit. Working without a net.
Do we have Band-Aids?
It's gonna be as perfect as possible.
So you're just deepening the rabbit, is that?
No, I'm cutting the opposite rabbit, the rabbit on the face of the mold. I'm working on this side now.
Okay.
So
Cut yourself also.
I can sew myself
He
up.
did sign the waiver, didn't he?
I did sign the waiver.
A little more like Roy Underhill built it.
Yeah, bloody. The man cuts himself more on TV than anyone else I've ever seen. But I've seen him in person, he's hysterical.
He seems like it from the TV show.
Oh
He
my
seems
God.
like he's fun to watch and have a beer with all at
He's
the same
hysterical.
time, probably, yeah.
So, all right. Let's see if we can do that. You might want to get in on this to show my massive error that's about.
And you go right for it, Regis?
I go.
You don't sneak up on it?
No, the point of it is that you scored the grain with the cutting gauge. So,
So you guys controlling the depth in from the edge with your fingers underneath. Huh?
yes.
Fingers to the fence.
Nice.
Pretty.
All right,
Right.
that's the first one, and then you just kind of,
It's easier now.
it gets easier, and you just kind of stand the plane up.
And you're cocked over a little bit on an angle.
Yeah.
So
I
just
laid
go right
in
into
that-
the.
I laid it into the corner of the gauge line with the corner of the bit. And then now, in my next 2 passes, I'm going to stand the plane straight up and then finish making the rabbit. One of the benefits of this is that you don't have to have an adjustable sticking board. You can work this rabbit at any time, and you don't need to worry about the fence interfering with the sticking board in any way. So that's kind of handy. Matt Bickford uses a sticking board that's made of MDF that's glued together. So that was my great trick for today, making a rabbit without a fence. And you can see I'm taking a fairly heavy cut. I'm not messing around here. And I'm just checking my depth on the end. Like 2 more passes and we're done with this. One thing I should mention about the rabbit plane is the bit needs to be a little wider than the sole of the plane. It needs to at least protrude from the work side. The same is true with the fenced one. Otherwise, it will stair step down the work. If it's flush, which is kind of annoying. So you don't want that to happen. Another benefit of this one is you can kind of use it any direction you want it to kind of clean up if you want, or whatever. Common thing to do is to use this one and then clean up with this one.
Can you use a shoulder plane for what you just did, or?
Yeah, you can. You could certainly use the shoulder plane, but like I said, it can be kind of awkward because it's so heavy. I mean, you can feel that one as opposed to that one. I kind of feel like you got a little better control with the lighter plane, especially since you're using it off, at an angle. When you're using a shorter plane, it's usually supported by the tenon or some of your other work, and you're using the mass to cut through the end grain. And that's really what it's made for, but you can kind of press it into service.
I was gonna say, other than the fact that you're a junkie, then why do you even own it?
For this.
He only needs one of the
All
other.
right.
It makes
Happens for
some
some
things easier.
reason.
It's a problem
They all
solver.
still fit in the full chest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's kind of my limit.
The chest isn't
nowadays.
full yet. It took 4 guys to get it out of the car.
So, all right, so I have those 2 rabbits on my profile. So now I need to cut the curved sections. So what I'm going to do first, though, is I'm going to waste out all this junk in there with the rabbit plane. Because as I said before, it's a lot easier to sharpen the rabbit plane than it is to sharpen the hollow and the round. And the hollow and the round are much easier to sharpen than the complex ones. So I'm just going to kind of start wasting that out, and then we'll do something a little different. And again, I'm just kind of using my fingers against the work to keep that where I want to be. Actually, not doing bad for time.
2 seconds.
Chamfer on the edge, or you're trying to do some rounding as well?
No, I'm not trying to do any rounding. Actually, I would like to avoid rounding as much as possible. So what I've got on there is a chamfered kind of bevel, and I'm going to make a slightly different one here in a minute. But what that does is I'm going to be using the hollow planes for this. And if you can take a look at it here, it might be hard to see. That one's. It kind of provides 2 tracks for that unfenced plane to kind of live on and guide it later. So this is you're wasting out the wood. And
Could you show us that relationship?
Oh yeah, sure. Let me see if I look a little better.
I was gonna ask the same question. If you round it, what is it that you're losing? Oh, the reference. Okay, that
Right,
lets
yeah,
it bed
that-
itself in there.
Yeah, you've got 2 points on which that's going to ride.
Got it. Okay.
Which gives you a couple of benefits. It's not going to wear the sole of the plane as much as a single point will, especially with harder wood. And it gives you that, it kind of tracks you in there, which is nice. So I'm going to take a little more out of that. See, we're just about at my line that I marked there. So now I'm going to choose a couple of planes that are going to make this work. These planes will probably be 2 steps apart. So an 8 and 12 will be right around where I want to be. So that's an 8. Let's see how that. Against the lower curve. I'm not going to go for it.
This just seems so incongruous.
Yeah, that doesn't fit in the picture.
Exactly. Somebody's got to Photoshop that out.
Maybe not work.
Exactly.
Alright, so what I'm pretty much doing is just eyeballing how the sole of that fits the curvature that I'm trying to obtain. And that's not any particular curvature, I kind of freehanded that, so I'm not super, worried about it.
Regis, question.
Sure.
I noticed you're coming down from the, I guess I'd call it the apex of the curve,
Mm-hmm.
the high point. But couldn't you very well use the hollow and let it run in the quirk you had on one side and then the other to carry the sixth of a circle from each side?
You can do that. That's one technique. The Bickford book discusses several techniques for doing this. I kind of find my comfort with like the 2-point kind of thing on the bevel. Plus, you need to waste that wood out of there anyway. So I'm going to use this number 10 and probably the number 12 on the top side there.
And this ovolo is different than a Roman because this is a portion of an ellipse versus a
Grecian moldings all use elliptical sections. Roman moldings all use round sections. So you can decide what that says about the Greeks and the Romans. They
Better mathematicians.
or the Romans were like, we got stuff to build, let's get this shit done.
At least they're building a lot after that.
Bigger empire,
Well, yeah, I mean, they could farm it out. Figuring out how to make an ellipse is much harder to do out in,
when you're teaching,
the empire somewhere.
when you got some captured Souths out in London,
Exactly. The compass is way easier.
you gotta dumb it down a little.
Exactly.
But, so, let's see here.
We can go ahead with fix here.
So, you'll notice that out of the mouth of the plane, I got two shavings, which pretty much what I'm going to do is I'm going to shave it by one. Because there is no stop, there is no anything helping you. You just have to kind I think I got my graining backwards on here a little bit, but you can see it's almost there. Yeah, I think I got my grain backwards on the stick.
I didn't understand the question earlier. Somebody asked about not cutting, using just the half or the curve to go right into the corner of the shoulder. Was that the question?
I think what Jerry was asking was, do I need to use the 2 points? Could I just rest this corner of the plane in the rabbit?
Okay, right up against the shoulder. All right.
To guide.
All right.
And my answer was, yeah, I thought so. If you're going to do this, you'll develop your own likes and dislikes on what you're going to do.
Now, were you that aggressive in the interest of time, or just because
That was
the grade
probably
away?
more in the interest of time. That was kind of an aggressive cut for one of these. But, the pine is soft and, it's a demo. This is going in the fire later. So, and then I'm just going to kind of ease the top of that flat. Oops. That was me. This is easier when you have the grain orientation right, or get a little tear out along the profile. Maybe I can make that a little less aggressive. And this plane also is the one I have that has a mouth problem. You can see there's a little chip out of the corner there. And I've been meaning to figure out a way to repair that, but I haven't gotten it.
So why don't you just turn around and run from the other end?
Because I guess I could put a screw down there, but kind of hard. You generally are working in one.
That would make him work left-handed too, and he's already
Yeah.
voiced his opinion about that, so.
Yeah, I suppose that could, but it's not always an opportunity to work the opposite direction.
If you want, we could just clamp the board. Or we could just shut up and let you do what you want to do.
There's a
That was a heck of a find.
later cut.
Wow.
Well, I got most of the wood out of the front of it. But, you know,
So Regis, now the transition between those two curves is very subtle. But I
yes.
suppose microscopically, it's resulting in a slight point of some
Well.
sort. Would you use then a third larger radius to
No, I
smooth
probably
it, or
just use the top one and kind of
just roll it
roll it
over?
over a little bit, do
Okay.
one more pass, maybe, or right about
Right there, yeah.
you know, and of course you can do convex moldings as well, using hollow planes. I don't know if I got time for a convex molding.
Do one.
But,
People want to leave, they can leave.
okay.
Can we pass this around?
There you are, and, in the 1700s, they did have sandpaper, so sandpaper is legal. So you'll fair to curve a little bit out of
Or your
sandpaper.
partnership with your shavings.
Yeah, let's do that. See if I can get the grain orientation a little more favorable. Yeah, that's good. So we'll just do a simple concave molding. Do. It's bad when you can only see the eighths on your roller.
Time to start timber framing.
Do you use
any of the side round or snipe bill planes?
There are a pair in there.
Do you ever use those?
I have used the snipes. The side rounds came with my set. I haven't used those.
Can you show us what this question relates to?
Yes, I can. And your question kind of related to these as well earlier. This set of profiles here is called the side round. And what they allow you to do, they come in a pair, so you can work either side of the profile from the same direction. And what they allow you to do is start a curve against an abutment of some type, a straight up piece. So if you had a profile that had like a little bead, and then that little bead was at the foot of a cove like this, then you could reach this in there. And
Regis, you might point out that those are a lot harder to find than some of the others.
yes, they are hard to find.
That's exactly what I was asking.
The half, and then this is the opposite problem, is the snipe spill, which cut pretty much just a little quark area. So if you're working from flat or a square piece, you can do a convex shape straight on without fighting with it.
And router bits are particularly good at, having all those shapes built together with really crisp inside corners.
One thing you can do with these kind of things is do moldings that are undercut, which you can't cut with a router bit in any way.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
Right.
if you look at, I don't know how many of you look at church architecture, but a lot of moldings in Gothic style architecture have sweeping curves that come all the way around.
Yes,
And you
yes.
can't cut that molding with a router.
Now that you mention it,
You have
absolutely.
to use this, because you can get this combination of planes and those planes and the half round planes into that space and create that cut.
Thinking about all the churches I've seen in
Those
Europe,
moldings are
yeah,
very,
because
very
then they come past the tangent point and then come down, yes.
One of the churches that has a lot of that kind of molding is East Liberty Presbyterian.
What do they call that?
I mean, it's not a bead, it's an exaggeration of a bead.
It's kind of like an extended scotia is the term. All of the molding terms are talked about in this book from Matt Bickford. And that book is going to become part of the library.
East Liberty Presbyterian, you said,
East
right
Liberty
here?
Presbyterian.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, the woodwork and architecture
Yeah.
is stunning, frankly. So I was making a concave one, I believe. So I've got 3/4 and 3/4. And I'm just going to kind of make a half a quick and dirty half circle. All right. So anyway, this is not a molding I generally take this time to make in this way unless I need a very particular size. Because everybody's got a 40 router bit that will cut this profile. But what it's going to do is allow me to demonstrate a couple of things. It's big, so one of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to mark my lines as I did before, but I'm going to mark them in pencil this time. And then I'm going to cut a rabbet down into the vertex of the curve that the hollow urban, the round plane is going to ride in. So let me the round and the snipe scale planes are very, very, very hard to find. The rounds came with my set, which was kind of lucky. But the snipe bills I looked for a long time for. They are generally also dog meat when you find them.
Because they were so heavily used?
I don't know what the real issue is. I think that it's kind of like the opposite effect. They weren't necessarily used a lot, so they're often in really neglected shape. You know, they're kind of a specialty item. So, all right. So I got that, and then I'm going to kind of just draw a rabbit on there that I want to make to get me to that profile more or less. And I'm being very ad hoc here, but what I'm going to do to make this rabbit is I'm going to use the plow plane because I don't really want to spend the time to cut all of that wood out of there.
And again, it's easier to sharpen the flat line.
So that's the two intersecting dados that will create a rabbit.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly. So, let's see about. So I'm just gauging some lines in my rabbit, which probably won't be so much use for this there. Let me know if I'm making a mistake. So the plow plane, again, just is a fenced plane, and I'm going to adjust the width of that.
I wonder if on Lee Valley's computer system, if somebody types in your zip code, this red light starts flashing on the screen.
Yeah, I haven't said that much lately.
Okay.
So I'm going to just start by plowing a groove in here. as you'll notice, this is a lot easier work than using the rabbet frame.
You also only have an 1/8" cutter.
Yes, I also have a light cutter in here, which makes it easier as well, but there's no real reason to use a heavier cutter.
So how is it cutting progressively deeper each time? The cutter is,
The cutter removes the
what's,
wood.
this is, yeah, this is stopping it from being overly aggressive. I got it.
Yeah, the
That's-
skate
yeah.
is the sole one.
Skate?
Skate.
Okay,
Yeah, planes of this type are called skated.
okay.
There are a couple of different types, like grooving plane is one of them, also called a matching plane, which are handy.
Also point out that 45 and 55s have that feature because of the way they're drawn.
And you just determine how aggressive by how far the bit sits below the skate?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, indeed.
Usually kind of.
Yeah, it's meant to remove wood, not to make a fine finish.
Right.
So it's working just like a plane in essence.
That also comes in handy for doing grooves for door bottoms. Very good.
So you're sizing effectively the rabbet that you're.
Yeah, I mean, I'm
So
pretty much
the point is at the.
making the rabbet is at a point of that rabbet is at the, kind of like the vertex of that curve.
It also guarantees perfect squareness in the cut too.
Yeah, that's kind of nice, but
Yeah, mostly.
they're not always square.
I mean, yeah, but same measure from both edges.
Yeah.
So if you had a lot of rabbiting to do, Regis, would you go for this method versus just using a rabbet plane?
Depending on how big the rabbit is, yeah.
And the bigger
Yeah,
the rabbit, the more you'd use
the
this.
more I use this.
All right, makes sense.
You know,
For all the reasons you said earlier.
and I'll tell a little secret. I might also grab my router.
You mean your router's playing, right?
No, my router. Sometimes I just gotta get crap done.
Are you gonna talk about sharpening the profiles, Regis?
Yeah, I can talk. I'm in no particular hurry, so just as long as somebody's still here to help me put my thing back in the
You just
truck.
found yourself $1.
So, yeah, and then there's just a little bit of crap in there from misalignment.
Is that a technical term?
Yeah, yeah. And I think what I'll do is I'll just move that over. Alright. So there we have our rabbit for this molding. Sorry.
And are you trying to do a true radius here, or are
Okay.
you going to do a portion of an ellipse again?
I'm just doing a circle this
Okay.
time. So, I'm just gonna try to pull out a plane and see which one fits that circle. Now the planes are all over the place.
If you were doing a portion of an ellipse, would your technique be any different here?
I would probably make 2 rabbits, one for each portion of the ellipse.
Okay.
And then we have a little tiny one there. And start with the smaller one and do the bigger one. That's a little bit each.
Regis,
Yep.
something I think is a little bit intuitive. If you're doing a concave cut, a smaller choice of a round may not interfere. And if you're doing a convex cut, maybe a little larger curvature. In other words, that way you don't
That is true.
dig
But to
into.
get, right,
You can
tweak it easier.
right.
you can go bigger, but you can't go smaller.
That's right. Or the other way.
Yeah. You can
Depending on
tighten,
if you're cutting out or cutting over.
right, you can tighten your pull
Mm-hmm.
instead of not be able to at all?
Now, you'll notice something I'm doing a little different with these planes than from the complex molders. I'm using them all the way from the end, all the way in one cut, just because that makes the cut consistent as possible, as opposed to making it deeper on this end, shallower, and then trying to fix all that.
Because there's no automatic stop on these planes.
Do you wanna maybe take off the corners there with the straight edge
I could.
before you
Yeah.
run the
I could certainly do that.
rounding?
That would probably be a fun idea.
Get rid of a little bit more wood.
Yeah, it can take a while. Since the gun is cooperating, probably.
There you go.
That's pretty close now. Thank you. Sorry. You probably got
One
it.
hand's in.
This is the one right here, Regis.
That's the one.
Right on top, yes.
Thank you. They don't look the same.
And if you haven't seen Mouth Packer today, Roy only has a couple of shows this season showing folding planes that you can watch via podcast from pbs.org.
Matt Bickford.
So after a while, you kind of
Go to the
gotta.
site and actually see some demonstrations.
Roll it, yeah. Because the size is wider than your bit.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Bickford and planes.
You guys saying Bickford, and all I can think is Binford Tools from that Home Improvement. Was that show?
Yeah.
Tim Allen. I just that's not all I can think of, but it brings a bit of a smile to my face when I hear you talking about it. Yes, exactly. Yes,
I don't
yes.
know if it was mentioned up here, but you know, comparing doing some of this versus using a router, if you have to do some molding right away from the edge, and you can't
Well, that is
plunge
true.
in from the top,
Mhm.
in certain types of profiles, you know, I don't know how you do that with a machine, other than CNC or something like that, but then you could do hand planes, you
Sure.
do.
The bigger moldings take more time.
Yeah, that looks like pretty much a room with that.
Yeah,
That's what
I
you-
made it a little big because I wanted to demonstrate the plow plane.
But for a big piece of furniture, that's not too big of a piece of.
No, I mean for a
Yeah.
cornice for a clock or something like that.
Absolutely.
So you can see where we're headed though. We're almost there. Yeah, I think that pretty much is my time. If you want to come up
So
and
talk for a few minutes about sharpening, since
Oh,
any number of people,
sharpening.
just some generalities, and then people can talk to you directly.
So, I should preference my sharpening caulk that I use oil stones to do all my sharpening. Oil stones. So I have a variety of flat stones, and then I have just 3 other things I use to sharpen these planes. I have like a fine India cone-shaped slip from Norton. It's about that long, and probably covers the 18 pretty well on the backside, all the way down to say the 5 or 6 size. It's convex on one side, concave on the other. So I use that as the primary sharpening tool for the hollow rounds.
Because it's tapered, and
You can kind of work the
So,
profile where.
what are you working, back and forth in a half-inch range or
I
so?
kind of like
Oh,
rotate sideways.
Wow, okay.
This is not the technique you'll see from Larry Williams, but he's got more equipment and more reason to own it. So,
What grid is that?
I don't know what
That's,
grid it is. It's
that's probably about a
fine
Washington.
India.
That what?
It's probably about a Washington stone. So
No, it's not that fine.
it's not.
No, it's like red India stone. from
Okay.
Norton.
Approximately 800-ish grit is
Yeah.
probably about what that is.
Now, a lot of these all these plane blades are in actually pretty decent shape. So that's a fairly okay place to start. Then, for the more complex ones, and also for the hollow and round out, just touch them off with a hard Arkansas slip. So just a little slipstone that's shaped kind of like it's like a wedge with a little oval on the end. It'll fit into my smallest side bead plane, which is an 1/8. And then I just kind of work that.
So you use it around this, around.
Yeah, just around the curve or whatever way works. The biggest thing about sharpening these kinds of planes is that once the profile no longer matches the sole, they no longer work. Period. They don't work. So you have to keep...
How close are we talking? What does match mean? Thousandths? 10,000ths?
If it's wider than it's generally if you honed it out so it's bigger than the profile, like the radius is deeper than the profile, you won't get the full profile.
Okay.
So you want to be close. I mean, you can take a look down that.
Well, that's close.
Yeah.
Less than the
I mean,
64.
looking at it from here, you can just see the gleam of the silver of
Yeah, you
just
can
past it. That's
just see
really
the
close. Yeah, all right.
If they're a little, fuller, of course you're going to get a little smaller profile when it's made homemade, but it'll still work for the most part.
So when it no longer works, do you change the sole?
No, you try not to change the sole, you try to change the iron.
Okay.
Time to kind of refile it.
Okay.
So the goal is to not sharpen these all that much, which is why we use
Yeah.
the round blade.
So do you anneal the blade and then shape it and then?
If it's really, really nasty, really off, annealing the blade, regrinding or refiling the profile, and doing that is part of it. One of the things that's kind of there's a lot of really subtle things about these planes that it's kind of interesting to keep things working. Because the bit is not straight in the plane. It's tapered. So the bit is actually a little wider here than it is down here. Not by a whole heck of a lot, but enough that as you grind it forward, it keeps filling out the space. So,
That's a lot of sharpening you gotta do to get to that point though.
Yeah, it is a lot of sharpening.
Those blades are not that expensive, to buy a set from like the Lee Nielsen,
Yeah.
the, Hawk guys.
The only thing I know about the Lee Nielsen ones is, the blades on these planes tend to vary in thickness pretty substantially. Like that one there is a little bit thicker than that one there, and the one in the 1700s plane is very thin. So depending on what your original plane blade looks like, you may end up with a much bigger mouth than you want by using a modern replacement, because they tend to be a little thinner.
Earlier you mentioned if you found a body and a wedge, but no bit. Other than preserving provenance or something like that, is there any reason why you wouldn't just make your own wedge to fit these things?
Wedge?
They're a woodworker,
No, that's what I mean.
make a new wedge if you need it.
Yeah.
Yeah, just make it
There
new.
are plenty of
I
replacements.
mean, planes with provenance, there's some collectible.
This set has some provenance. I
But
mean,
it doesn't have any real collectible value.
okay. Tell that to all the collectors who are sitting on.
This is a
Oh, I know that.
This is a manufactured set. This is made in a factory
Right.
in the late 1800s. This plane is made by hand by a guy at a bench and his apprentices. That's a little different, from the point of view of the collector. There are a couple of people who have, really big names in planes. One of them is Caesar Cheelor, who was a slave of Nicholson in Massachusetts, and then got freed when Nicholson died and made planes under his own name. If you see a plane with that name on it, buy it and send your kids to college.
He's
Yeah.
not kidding.
I'm sure
You
it's
know,
not.
because, you know, planes from him are rare and, you know, in any condition, very, very valuable.
What's that plane worth?
I bought this for $60 on eBay.
Good for you.
So,
Over
and that's
at-
about the price.
I was over to Harrisburg, not this year, but last year, where they have a big tool collector meeting, and they had boxes of hand planes that you could buy the whole box for $150, $200. And they had single molding planes that were for several hundreds of dollars at that collection.
Yeah, I mean, I generally try to look for stuff that's in good worker shape. And I guess I should explain quickly what that means if people have the time. One is that the body is pretty flat, you know. Two, the wedge and the iron are there. The iron looks like the sole, within reason. And that in particular, the boxing is intact, because it can be hard to replace. And if it's falling out, that's not, you know, falling out too bad. It's easy to repair the boxing because it's generally held in there with hide glue. So you can steam it out, put it back in, glue it back in there with hide glue, and then, you know, go to town. You know, you're back in business. You know, if the boxing is peeking out just a little bit,
The boxing, Regis. So at some point, they must have been making these things without the boxing until they discovered that it keeps wearing out the sole. When did that occur? Do you know? Or has it always been that way?
I
1600s?
You don't really see a lot of planes like this at that time.
So
The furniture is much simpler.
1700s.
Yeah, you see a lot of this stuff come into fashion in the 1700s,
Okay.
with more high fashion furniture like Chippendale,
Mhm.
you know, and whatever. Before that, furniture is very basic. You know, see Peter Follansbee. It's all, you know, it's carved, but the
Yeah.
joinery is simple.
Right. Interesting.
So, and that's pretty much my talk.
What time is the board meeting? So we don't run too long here.
Starts in 6 minutes.
Okay, so you're right on time.
We haven't got going yet.
Oh,
For the library.
and many thanks, this will be in the library, but I can't check it out today until I get the card and the envelope in it, so I guess I'll just have to take care of it till then.